up and then break through it. So this is always the resistance area. A lot of times you see a brief reversion upon first attempt, so something like this a lot of times occurs, and then we go higher, or sometimes we just go sideways and then higher or lower. So something like that occurs a lot from what I've seen. So far the wave 3 longs look, confident, convincing to be in. Let's go to wave 10. This shows another pivot. So that's good with this K assigned. As I tell people, you never want to be long when the standard deviation is red, like down here. Wait till it turns green, and it needs to continue green for you to feel safe to be in the long. Never try going long the price when this is red. So that's what I tell people. And it has not performed the average move above pivot. You can see that here, this blue line from this candle here to about here. The average move brings us to 52.56 about. And it's not quite there yet. Barrick's at 47.91 was the last close as of last Friday. So still has some room here to perform the average move. So it's good for longs. Let's put the percent bands on. Again, we're right here at this 80% band. Next is 50%. And there's also the 8% band down here. If there's not strength, we can make a temporary L1 below the pivot. Pull up options analyzer. And there's 2 occurrences of H2. More odds or more occurrences of the L1, but higher highs is still doable. It'll depend on what's going on with the macro story. So this is looking good so far for longs. I'm gonna go to wave 20 and 50, and then I can go back down to the hourly aggregations. We can check that out. Wave 20, like I said a little bit ago, it's not too safe going long when standard deviation's red, and especially going higher. But this is going flat, so that's good. It's giving me some sign that it's dying down, the red standard deviation, and it could potentially go down or turn green, and that's what we want to see for longs. But no H1 yet. It's fighting for that. Let's go to wave 50. I like seeing the higher waves because I like seeing where price is ultimately flowing. I believe this has no more open states though on the higher wave. Just real quick, let's look at the wave 50, just so we can see what's going on here. So let me move this up a little bit. So this is what I see in terms of structure. So for a couple months in 2025, or more than a couple months, I think it was like 6 months, the whole gold and silver sector consolidated, went sideways month over month for about 6 months, I believe. And then mid phase higher, right? The price would consolidate here. We had some compression, and now this is an expansion phase. We got compression, and now price is kind of consolidating again a little bit. So it's getting ready for another move, is what I'm trying to tell you. Maybe it's higher, or maybe it's L1 down here to the 8% band down there. So that's what I see in terms of structure here. Now there is no other open states higher, I believe. I keep adding days. I looked at this a little bit ago. I don't think there's any higher open states. But it doesn't rule out that price can continue to go higher. It definitely can. But it has closed most open states, which just tells us this thing is gone. So considering that, maybe this is a short-term swing, maybe under a month or shorter than that. I'm gonna delete these lines real quick. I'll bring these days down. And now let's look at the hourly aggregation stuff for the coming days. 1 second. Wave 50, yeah. Pretty strong reversals for sure. Let's say this cursor needs to load up. All right. I'm going to tone it down a little bit now. Let's go to hourly stuff. All right. So now I'll look at the smaller time frame. This is the wave 7 by 60 minute. This gives us a good outlook into the coming days. And we see a price almost perform the average move here. We got some opens, but the standard deviation was green, right? Kind of had a weak K, right? We got a K, had some green, that means went sideways, ever going up a little bit, then back down, turn red. So that's not amazing for one to go long, but this could always turn back green. I mean, it happens a lot in the smaller waves, or smaller time frames rather. As you can see here. Let's see, Newmont, yeah, Newmont was a good one. We can also look at that one too. That's definitely a peer of Barrick. Barrick's options chain is very liquid, so which is good for playing options on this one. We don't want to get stuck in something that has no activity. It's never a good thing. Newmont's good though too, very liquid options chain. Though the premiums are getting pretty expensive. Are with Barrick too. I mean, the stocks are up in the past 6 months over 100%, 150% or more. So we can expect that.
You'll save each year.
Wave 10, 30-minute decision right here to make. As you can see, we're practically sideways in price. Is price going to have the strength to go through these 2 open states there, or is it have go into some weakness and make it L1? And we're kind of seeing that with the greens and red right here. A month or shorter than that. H10. It's not too crazy. There's a high of 27 there. 14. So those open states are very doable to close for the coming days. Let's look at the wave 20, 60 minute a lot. It's not too crazy. There's a high of 27 there. Wave 50. Yeah, bullish and strong reversals for sure. Open states are very doable to close. Yeah, I think you remain bullish and gold until something breaks. I will say a lot of the inflation is in gold and silver. All right. As we enter an environment of deflation, like I talk about a lot, that's where you see some massive selling in gold and silver. Yeah, I think you remain bullish until I would expect that. All right. A lot of the inflation is in gold and silver. I'll look at the smaller time frame. This is wave 7 by wave 20, 60 minute. Kind of what the wave 10, 60 minute show, just for it. It has not performed this average move yet. It's got open state 49.48. The 50% being there. I can also pull up a splice on this one too. Right, kind of had a 60 minute K. Kind of with the wave 10, 60 minute. Green. Let's see, wave 25 minute. Let's see what the little bit, then back down, turn red. Looked like. So that's not amazing for one. Yeah, we close on a pivot. This could always turn back green. I mean, it happens a lot in the smaller waves. Okay. Yeah, let's look at the splice for this one. Has not performed this average move, as you can see here. Hit. See Newmont, yeah. Newmont was good. This splice. All right. We can do a. Should just do a Tuesday, or we can do Monday, Tuesday. I'll to change this down here. It's never a good thing. Into tomorrow. We got 80% band, the green one, and we also have the red one. We got 80% band, the green one, and we also have the red one. And of course, the 50%, again, that's green, the 50% that's red. So price will target, one of these going to tomorrow. 14. Start heading one of those directions. And then from there, we can see what gets potentially hit next. And that'll be the higher bands, like the 50%. So that's what I'm seeing there with the options analyzer. Yeah. Big drop off in occurrences. H1 with 11 occurrences, H2 occurrences. Still doable with 45% odds. But we see more occurrences of L1 occurring in the past 200 days. I would expect that. I will say, like I said, price as a close, last Friday was up 5.58%, where there was. So this could be starting a new bullish cycle in the short term. But nothing too obvious here yet. Like I said, price is right here on the pivot. So nothing too obvious. All right, I'm gonna turn this back to regular. Okay. All right. Let's look at the splice for this one. That's about it for Barrick. We can come back to that one. Splice. All right. We got some other ones we can talk about. This one is, I'll say this one to later. This one's EC. This is, I'll to change this. Eco Petrol or Eco Petrol. It's a Colombian crude oil company. And I've been researching this one today because this company focuses on heavy crude, which I believe 70% of, I forget 50% that's red. I forget what the headline was, but we use a lot of heavy crude in the U.S. And we get a lot of it from one of those directions, Mexico and Canada. But that's kind of changing because what we have going on with the politics and stuff between nations. So now, basically, long story short, the U.S. has to buy heavy crude from other nations. I think they're starting to get it from Venezuela. So that's good to us, but this company in Colombia has a lot of it. They specialize in it. This kind of in the desert for a while. It's been low, but it's starting to make a comeback higher. An evaluation on this is amazing. Yeah, this thing was once $27.50. It stands at $11 now, just about. And they also made a deal with India. India's buying heavy crude from them because I believe the Trump administration is making India turn away from Russian oil. And there's so now like South America, like I said, specializes in the heavy crude. There's a lot of demand for it. So this could be a very good potential for swing trading. I think this is more so a longer term hold, in my opinion, but we could still swing trade this one depending on what we see. Wave 3 here. There's nothing too obvious about the smaller waves. I looked at this earlier. We are in the M assignment below pivot. So nothing too obvious to jump in longs right now. But we'll keep clicking through this, see what we can find. Okay, price can go down and close these open states here and do some I forget what the headline was, but stop here at the average percent below pivot, as in support. Go higher, make an H1. Yeah, L1. Interesting. All right, but yeah, still there's no green standard deviation yet. But it's not going higher. The red's not going higher, so that's good, I guess. Let's see. Wave 20. We broke below the purple vector. Price really has to make his mind up here soon. But doesn't want to retrieve this level or go down and make an L1. Like I said, specializes in the heavy crude. Let's put 2,000 days on now. As I roll in the higher waves, you'll see why I'm going to go along this one. Regarding the fractal, like I said, valuation very cheap, about 13 times earnings on this one. Big dividend too. Cash on hand, very healthy company financially. Let's see. That's more days there. Okay. There's a lot of open space there. Let me zoom in here. So price is obviously compressing right now on this wave. And the reason why I can't just jump in long right now is because we don't know when this compression will stop. So it started here, right? It might compress and compress until we get down to this purple vector for support. I see that happen a lot. And then we'll see something like this. Compression, expansion. It happens a lot. Or if it just gets weak, it'll just go down and make it L1. You got open states there. So that's what can happen with that. Interesting. Yeah, Amazon, I can go over that in a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to just discuss a few of these real quick, and then we'll discuss whatever you guys want to see. But it's not going higher. The red's not going higher. Okay, I'm going to go to wave 100, I believe, for this one. Same thing, I just showed wave 50, still compressing. Okay, wave 150, same thing, kind of. All right, wave 200. So, it did kind of perform the average move. Yeah, I went past it a little bit. As I roll in the higher waves, you'll see why. And like I said, the compression here, it may even end somewhere in here, on top of this blue area, the average percent above pivot, like the active support. There's some imprint bands there. That could be support. And then we can see some upside, big expansion cycle higher. We got open state at 17.83. That's what I'm seeing for that one. Kind of like right here. Good compression. All the way down to this thick imprint band area. And then expansion higher. And you see it's a pattern, right? Compression, expansion, compression, expansion. That's what I'm seeing for that one. All right. I'm going to the next one. This one's Intuit. Big software company. Yeah, let's look at the Wave 7. The Wave 7 is pretty interesting. This thing's been compressing very sharply for quite a bit, regarding the whole AI situation with software. AI, the whole AI, new AI tools by like Anthropic and other big companies like OpenAI are kind of making software companies obsolete. These companies really can't compete with these new AI tools. Or apparently what the headlines say, right? That's what they say. But we can see clues on here that this thing might be getting close to making a bottom. It's definitely oversold. Way below 2% band there. This needs to turn green though. This is red going up, and standard deviation, I don't really like that. So if we go long like tomorrow, it would be catching a fall knife, obviously. But this is something that we should keep checking on. We could definitely find a bottom, or at least a temporary bottom for reversion higher. Particularly a short-term trade. Yeah, this thing's been compressing. Made an H1 briefly, then made more lows lower to L5. That doesn't look great. This green went all the way down. If it comes out the golden area green, that'd be good. Although on the higher waves, as I'll pull them up, I believe the standard deviation's at extreme for some of them. Let's go to like the wave 20. Oh, okay, that's wave 30. But yeah, wave 20, we're at 3.6. And anytime we're at extreme, the standard deviation really can't go much higher. And it usually starts going sideways, like right about now. Like gold and silver, I can show as an example in a minute. On the wave 200, 15,000 days. Those ones are going sideways in standard deviation. Just because it's been so extreme, it can't really go much higher. It has to go back down, which doesn't 100% of the time mean that price is going to do the opposite of what this shows right away. But it's definitely a clue that this is very oversold, and we could expect a reversion at some point regarding the standard deviation being that extreme. It may be a temporary one, or it might be one that lasts longer. We don't know yet. But this thing's way below 2% band. Anytime we break above or below this 2% band, it's, it turns into a super outlier from what I've seen. But we have to see this thing go sideways a little bit, I would think, first, and then the standard deviation to turn green again to be great. The signal long. We're at L30, which is 8% odds of occurring at all. Pretty low on occurrence. And if you look at the more lows, there's not much odds at all or occurrences of those, so not too worrisome about further lows. They can definitely happen. As opposed to the H1 12 occurrences obviously happens 100% of the time at some point. So it's definitely getting near there. But as of right now, like I said, I'd be catching the falling knife. This is just one that I want to keep my eye on. I'm sure some other people are too. Let's go to wave 50, same thing. Look how extreme that is in the standard deviation. If I add more days, I think it's like that. Yep. Look how quick that was. 2,000 days, it just shot up right to extreme. I don't think we ever really saw anything like that in a while. Yeah. Even 5,000 days alone. I mean, there's been pretty elevated to about 3. We're at 5.7. We went from the golden area to the very bottom all the way to the very top. From one extreme to the other extreme pretty quick. If we go down, let's see if there's any other open states lower. So in the wave 150, we're at a low of 130. That's pretty low. So that's 60. Add some more days. Okay. Now with 10,000 days on wave 60, we finally get some open states that are lower. 301, 281. And the standard deviation doesn't seem so elevated. So those can definitely come into play if there's no bottom in the short term. Price is basically flowing towards that area, right? We're at an outlier on the downside. Why can't the outlier continue? I think it may just do so. Yes, open states down there, wave 70. Let's go to wave 100. Yeah, there's definitely more open states, but we can always catch a short-term reversion higher. But like I said, this would be catching the falling knife. But I just want to show this one because it's interesting to see how oversold this thing is. It's all the fear driven, the sell off. Nothing crazy happened with their earnings or with their financial health of the company, just AI fears. That's why I say it's oversold. So I thought it was just an interesting one to look at. But we'll have to find an obvious bottom. There's nothing too obvious yet. This thing's gonna bottom anytime soon. I believe this thing closed up though, looks like. Friday. That's the linear. This thing was at 800 not too long ago. Down to 400. This was cut in half. It happened pretty quick. But all right, I'm gonna keep going. I have Regeneron. It's a biotech drug manufacturer company. Let's start the wave 3. See what we got here. I know these options are pretty expensive. Games can be pricey. Okay, wave 3, we're in a bull cycle. We didn't perform the average move yet. Average move lines up right here, this resistive area. So price can definitely get there before meeting resistance. We have K assigned, green standard deviation. So it's looking good so far if you're in long now or want to go long. We ticked up to the 80% band, 50% lines up right up here. It's looking like it's flowing there. Wave 7, the average move brings us above this average percent above pivot. The open state 835.94. With this green taking off in the area, so that's good. It wouldn't be unsafe to be in long from what I see. All right, wave 7. Oh, I think it changed. Let's go wave 10. Okay. Yeah, it hasn't performed the average move yet. So far, everything's showing that it's in an expansion cycle higher. Longs look safe as of right now. It's looking like it's going to continue. And look at that. This is wave 20. We're at H2. Average move brings us to 891. To perform this average move, it closes other open states and smaller waves like wave 7, 10. And this looks really good down here. We had a K with we had red briefly. Now green again. Finally got a sign of K again. And the green's leaving the golden area. So that always looks good for going long. I like that. But like I said, these premiums are pretty pricey. Maybe this is something we do on a smaller date, a short time frame, to get cheaper premium. Let's go to higher open states. Let's see what this thing's targeting ultimately. Where is it flowing to? So wave 50, we got open state. Maybe one. To feel safe and long, I would like to see this continue green and go higher. 60. Let's look some more days actually. Okay, so a lot of open space there, but there has to be something that's closer on the higher waves, wave 100. Let's see if there is or not. Yeah, there is. Okay. I thought so. 861.45. This is where price is ultimately flowing to. So let's just start from down here. Price consolidated. Go over the structure of price from what I see. Price consolidated for a little bit. Then I got some strength to make a H1. Compress a tiny bit for a couple days or so. We saw expansion higher. It was kind of an outlier above this average percent above pivot. Then it started compressing lower. And it had a chance to go much lower, but it didn't. It rejected further downside, which signals there's obviously some strength there. Expanded higher. Now there's some more compression. Now we're expanding again. And price is flowing towards that 861. So I like that. I wouldn't mind, taking something that's a little further out to close the open state there. So I feel good about that one. Right in here, this area, there's a lot of volatility here. Price had the opportunity to go lower, back down below Pearl Vector or even L1, and it didn't. Despite the volatility, it kept pushing higher, which tells me that it has the strength to flow all the way up to the 861.45. In regards to the Fractal, the Regeneron's a good company. I believe it's not overvalued. Let me look it up on my other computer. It's trading at 20 times earnings with hardly any debt. It's good. But I had to read more about that one, though, in terms of the macro. But on the Fractal side, it looks good. I'm looking at it. Right here, kind of the same thing. I would think the resistance starts occurring right there. The edge of this blue area. Got open state way up there at 1056.90. But yeah, as soon as price gets up to here, that's where it usually runs out of steam. It will consolidate or start compressing and then figure if it wants to expand higher or make it L1. But yeah, obviously green standard deviation, so it's good. It's looking good. EMX, this is an ETF for rare earth element stocks. I think with the bigger pullback in the market, I'd still be confident on the rare earths because we're kind of like in a Cold War with China. This is going to continue no matter what the market does. The demand is still there for the rare earths. There's only so much of it. It's hard to mine. So it's hard to come by. A lot of labor, a lot of exploration to get these, and they're needed for defense and other stuff like EVs. When we go over a lot of CRML, critical minerals, it's a good name, small cap, it's pretty volatile. This is a ETF, so it holds a variety of rare earth element stocks around the world. Some are headquartered in Australia, some are headquartered in the UK. It holds MP Materials, if you know that name. So on a pullback, this is something I consider going long in on shares. You see here with K assigned, made a brief H2. You see price fell down to purple vector for support. From there, it will try now to perform this average move or even higher, or weakness will ensue and we'll get to L1. One of those will happen. Let's keep clicking through, see if there's anything obvious with this one. Okay, so a lot of volatility there on this pivot, but price got back up above purple vector, so that's good. Price is trying to perform what this blue line shows, the average move above pivot. We went from red to green standard deviation. If this can go down lower area, we can get a K assigned. We can expect some sharp expansion. So it'd be great to get in for long. And it's kind of a little different. This is still red, the M assigned. This is more so something you go long. This thing is about $89 a share. We keep clicking through it though. Let's see what this thing is targeting on a longer time frame. Okay, we got some way up there at 153.80. You can definitely get there at the rate it's going. It's kind of flowing similar to gold and silver. They're commodities. Those things pretty volatile. Let me see. I kind of see kind of a channel here. Let's see. Kind of. I'm draw this up to here, and then I think something like this. And this is what I see. This doesn't 100% mean anything when you draw these, but it kind of does, sometimes. So perhaps price compresses a little bit, finds some support there, then there's a breakout higher. So something like that. That's what I see. But that open state is definitely very doable regarding the demand of the rare earths. So this is more so a longer term play, month over month. Let's see. Yeah, I can look at ANET in a little bit. Yes, no problem. Okay, let me explain this real quick from what I see right here. See how price stopped right here at the average percent above pivot, the edge of this blue area. Like I said earlier, that's the resistance area, upon first test, or at least close to testing it, like right here. It got close and immediately compressed and went lower. And we're doing that here. Same with here too. We got above it a little bit, and then we immediately compressed lower, found support, then went way higher. This seems pretty volatile, obviously. But yeah, that's about it for this one. This is something I'd stay long. You know, if there's a big pullback in the overall market, you know, I'm still confident with rare earths, so I'd be long this ETF. Owned by VanEck. I'm trading this one currently in shares, Ruger, RGR. Let me go over this real quick. And then this one too. And I'll go over the stocks you guys want to see. We can go over them real quick with this one. This thing is a decision to make. You know, I've seen this formation happen a lot, something like this. You know, that's the thing about trading. The longer you trade, the more you learn and remember past behaviors. And it depends on the stocks. You know, they all have their own behavior on how they trade and how they move. But I see something like this. You know, we expanded higher, went sideways, compressed lower, more expansion, compression. I'm seeing potential expansion higher, but this red down here doesn't help. But if you look back in time, you know, a lot of times it would go green, red, green, red. And so I'd like to see that close. I mean, this stock's been pretty low for a while. It's kind of a rebound name. I don't expect much more compression lower. If you look at the higher waves, you'll see the standard deviation has been pretty extreme. Yeah, like right here. Get up to here, went sideways and lower. So even on the wave 20 I just showed with that red standard deviation showing, this shows, you know, this looks better for upside. Looks more convincing because price is fighting for that H1 above pivot, which it hasn't had for a while. So I'm seeing this one. This needs to make an H1. Okay, I'm gonna go to after this loads, I'll go to the smaller waves real quick, see if there's anything in those. Let's look at this real quick. Yeah, this is showing the same thing as wave 100. Price is fighting for that H1. The standard deviation needs to turn green. But I do have shares in this one. Playing for the H1. But pivot, the higher waves. Or even this would be a great open state to close. It'd be a great profit right there. Okay, and the smaller waves. Looks like there's KS sign last. You know, price is trying to find out what it wants to do here. It's just kind of hugging the pivot right now. Yeah, if this M takes off, you know, and this for long, but with the wave 50, and you know, maybe give it some more time, and then it'll make the H1. Sometimes if the higher waves look great, I'll just ignore the smaller waves, especially when I'm holding shares. I do that a lot. Perhaps even does something like this. We compress until there's support either there, or if there's support or at the pearl vector, then higher, and then it'll make the H1 on the wave 100. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll have to see. But I don't mind being long month over month with this one. So, all right, and then let's go to XLF, the financial ETF. This is something I consider buying puts on, you know, playing some more downside potentially at some point. Even though the short-term waves or short-term time frame will show that this thing's kind of, you know, it's oversold maybe. It might look. But really, in the higher waves, it looks like this thing is just getting started to the downside. And the whole thing with private credit, if you heard me talk about that before, you know, it's continuing to look more ugly and ugly. You know, it's starting to blow up. The whole private credit sector. It's like this, like an investment firm will pop up, with clients' money, and then that firm will invest those clients' money into, software stocks and stuff, or just debentures or anything. So it's not looking good. The software stocks are getting killed because of the AI disruption, AI fears, which is really hurting private credit. So, and that whole private credit situation, spills over to the whole financial sector. So, which is XLF. You can see that wave 7, the M, just take off. If we can get below this average percent below pivot, it can really get explosive to the downside. So price has to make his mind up here. Does it want to revise higher, go reclaim the pearl vector, or make an H1? Or will it continue to be weak? If it does, it's going to be very sharp to the downside. You got some open states way down there. So that's what I see there. Wave 10, yeah, same thing with wave 7. Let's go wave 20. Oh, it's wave 30. Yeah, wave 20, look, we're already breaking below it, right? So price is basically denied what this average, what the blue line shows. It denied the pearl vector, and it's going lower. So like I said a minute ago, the higher waves, as I go higher and higher, it's showing that this big downside cycle may just be getting started with the financials. You can see the standard deviation is, staying red. We had M, a sign not too long ago in January, but this red standard deviation is elevated higher. It's going higher. So you got 10% band down there at 46, 2% 43. Those are very due potentials. The short term, that can happen pretty quick. Yeah, look at the wave 100. This M just got signed, 13th, a couple days ago, right? Like I said a little bit ago, this looks like on the higher waves, like wave 100 plus, this downside cycle is just getting started. I'd like to see these open states get closed. It'd be a pretty big play. Price is at about $52 now, 44 open states. It's a pretty big move. And I'd like to see this red standard deviation take off in the golden area. It's looking like we're getting kind of clues that it is. If you zoom in on it, see it's gaining some elevation there. As we know, the standard deviation moves from the golden area. That's the most sharp moves. So this downside could just be getting started. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, look at the wave 150, the 1,000 days. Look how low the standard deviation is. Still red. No M is signed yet, but yeah, this looks like it's just getting started to make an L1. Okay. And look at the standard deviation real quick. Look how long it's been green. For a long time, for a couple years, right? Well, for, just say about 2 years or so. Just now starting to red. So after 2 years, let's say it is, of green standard deviation and price expanding higher in the wave 200, why go long now when standard deviation is turning red after 2 years of green? I would think there's an M going to be assigned soon here. So that tells me that's definitely a clue there that a big compression cycle is just about to begin for this ETF. And another way to look at this on the flip side is FAZ. This is a times bear of the financial sector. So this thing goes up when the financial sector goes down, like XLF. So it's inverse to XLF. Let's look at the wave 50. This thing's pretty volatile. It's 3 times. And look at this. This thing looks like it's very energized, right? Explosive upside here, only at H2. If it breaks above this area here, this resistance can get very explosive. Definitely close those 2 open states. And average move is way up here, way up there to 87. Shares are at, what was like 46 or so. 46 to 87. On shares, it's a very good return. The options are not too great, I don't think. I haven't looked at it since the reverse split, but even shares would be a great trade with this one. This K was just assigned, on the 12th or whatever. With the wave 100, only at H2, it's just getting started to the upside. So I always look, if I'm looking at ETF, if there's an inverse to whatever ETF I'm looking at, I like look at both, Can help show the picture of what's going on. But look at the K, just got started. 12th. With the green potentially leaving the golden area. Looks like it's starting to. Look at this. This thing's been compressing for a long time. Yeah, this thing's been compressing for 2 years, just like I was expanding for 2 years because they're inverse. So the price is just getting started. And real quick, when I see something like this, the relationship between the wave 150 and the wave 100, for what we see in price structure, from what I'm seeing between these two waves, see how price is just getting started above the purple vector, just reclaimed it, and it denied this open state down there. And with the wave 100, we're at H2. This tells me that not only that will close, but the chances of us seeing an outlier on the smaller wave, like the wave 100, is heightened because the 50, this looks like price is just getting started to the upside. So for price to make a H1 on the 150, we would have an outlier on the 100 to go above the blue area here, close the open states. So this is how I gauge when there's going to be like an outlier or not. This is what I like to do too. Compare the waves, see what's going on, and kind of gauge if there would be an outlier or not, and how big of an outlier, higher or lower. So we want 200 probably shows the same thing. Yeah, it's just getting a purple vector. Even though the smaller waves, like if I go back down to wave 50 to 20 or 7, those the price might look elevated or like overbought. But really in the higher waves, the price is just getting started on the purple, getting back on the purple vector and go for the H1, which tells me that we outlier in the smaller waves. There'll have to be an outlier in the smaller waves for this thing to make a H1, right? So I'll expect an outlier in the smaller waves, like wave, let's go to 10. Yeah. So for H1 to occur, the wave 200, price will be above the average percent, which is an outlier. Oh, and catching the outlier is always, gives the best returns. So focusing on, and studying, just, gauging the outlier. So that's about it for those. For the XLF, FAZ, I'd be short financials in the short term, at least. Real quick, I'll talk about this one. This is BioMarin. It's a pretty big, I think it's like $20 billion biotech company, focuses on very rare diseases. So there's a lot of demand and need for this company. They do great things for people, and they also make a lot of money. The wave 150, yeah, 150, we're just getting back above purple vector. It's going for H1. Green standard deviation showing. Same with wave 200. So as I tell people, just seeing this alone, as long as price doesn't get weak and go for this open state, I'll just watch this wave 200 and ignore everything else and just go along and watch this. It worked for UPS, it worked for OKE, it worked for COP, all those. I've done smaller waves, focus on one thing, the wave 200. This shows that price is getting back above purple vector and it's going for H1. Pretty soon here, if there is any weakness, and if I need to be worried about the open state lower, and a K would really help too. It's not into golden area, but if it's green, went from red to green after a long period of going sideways and being red standard deviation. For a big squeeze higher, it might need that green standard deviation going golden area and then out green, maybe a sign K. That'd really help. price to get the H1. But like I said, I ignore everything else, all the small waves, just focus on this one. A lot of times I'll go long shares like very heavily, and then I'll buy some like puts or just some kind of insurance, strategy, just in case price gets really weak and closes this open state here or even lower. There'll be a 2% band down there. Yep, right there at 50.81. I'll go long heavily on the shares here and buy some puts, down 2% area or whatever, or some kind of insurance strategy and options. And then I'll hold the shares going for, the H1 or even higher. So that's worked with UPS, OKE, COP, a couple of stocks. Just gotta keep it simple. I like looking through all the ways when I'm looking for a trade, but if I'm looking for something going long, like this scenario, I'll just ignore everything else on smaller waves, smaller aggregations, whatever. Focus on one and just play this, And as far as the business, it's a fairly healthy company. Nothing too cautious, about the company. So in the physical world looks great, and the fractal looks great. I'm gonna go long. Maybe I'll buy some insurance just in case. So that's an example of that. And that's about it for all these names I found. If you like any of them, you can speak up about them, what you like or don't like, or you text in the chat. Now we're at the point in the session where you guys can start texting which ones you like me to go over, and we can talk about it as a group. See if Zeke said Amazon. And look at Amazon. I think that for the month time frame, it's the worst month for Amazon since 2006, from what I read. With that headline regarding that, why would you want to go long now? Yeah, with the worst month since 2006 or whatever. That's in terms of being long, but for reversion, we can definitely play reversion, right? If we see something that's obvious in the fractal, that's why we'll have to look through it here. We're at L11, deviation, way below the 2% band. Price needs to get back above this pearl vector first. It needs to show some strength. I don't like guessing the strength. I gotta see the strength first. Will happen. Let's go wave 7. That's good. It got towards extreme standard deviation. Now it's down lower. That needs to turn green though. Let's load some more days. Yeah, look at that. No, there's 2 open states lower. Just because the red standard deviation is going, it's going down, don't think it can just go spike back higher. It does that a lot. It could close those pretty quick. It's almost there. It's at 197, 194, 191. Not too far away. But I wouldn't want to enter long tomorrow, I'll tell you that. So far. So no obvious sign of reversion yet. Look at this. Wave 10, 1,000 days. All these open states down there, those stacked open states. I would not feel comfortable going long tomorrow on this. Oh, the 2%'s all the way down there. We're not even at the 10% yet. Perhaps it gets there first. We're at L8. 24% odds. L9. There's not, if you look at this, there's not many occurrences of anything further. We got 2 right there at L11. Nothing too crazy. Statistically, it looks like it'll make a H1 before any more lows. Although it's already an outlier lower, why can't the outlier continue down to these open states? I think it does, just regarding the whole market looking bearish, in my opinion. what I see on the fractal. 2 open states there. Yeah, it really needs to gain some strength here to kind of perform this average move higher regarding this blue line. Not looking too great yet. This M assigned, mean compression. With that red standard deviation taken off, not good for long. Yeah, look at the wave 100. Like it's just getting started. The M was assigned on the 9th of this month. Yeah, hope to stay at 173, then 140. And looks like it's gained some elevation there, leaving the golden area. You never want to go long in price when this red standard deviation is leaving the golden area with that M assigned. Never a good idea. M assigned on the 9th. This red's leaving the golden area. And the price is right here. It stopped at this resistive or kind of support area here. This average percent below pivot, as you can see. I'll kind of draw this out. So this is kind of like a big support zone. This is where price decides, does it want to go back higher, perform this average move higher above pivot, or will it be an outlier and go lower and close these 2 open states? So price has to figure that out really soon here. I don't like guessing which direction it'll go. And down here, we're kind of getting clues that this downside cycle below pivot is just getting started. So I'm definitely not betting on this. I'll tell you that. Like I said, the QQ SPY, I think it's all due for further compression lower, which includes Amazon. So I'm not liking long this at all. I think this thing's kind of like a little overbought valuation wise. I think it's like 35 times earnings or whatever it is. I haven't looked at it in a minute. So more compression is very rational with this name. Look at that standard deviation turn red after being green for a while. The KO was signed in 2023. Then we're just now getting some red. And we'll probably get M there. M assignment, meaning compression cycle taking place, compression lower. So stay away from Amazon, I think, for longs from what I'm seeing. Really great happy term. Then we can consider upside, but this is what we see right now. It's longs. So I'd say stay away from longs. Potentially even short it. If we get an M here, we can, buy a put on this maybe a month out or 2 and play the L1 or the 80% band on there, or even down here. A lot of times they'll compress all the way down there. This average percent below pivot. So we'll do something like this. Let's say it goes sideways for tomorrow, next day, buy puts, goes way lower, find support there, then you get out of the puts, then this thing goes higher, makes it H1. That's what I'm thinking happens here for Amazon, something like this. All right, next one, ANET, Netrista Networks, I think that is. I think isn't that cybersecurity software. Let's look at this one. Okay. Let's zoom in. Okay. This thing regained about purple vector. That's good. On Friday. We had red standard deviation, now green. Okay. Let's go to wave 7. About pivot. Green standard deviation, K assigned. So it's currently in expansion phase higher. It's looking to perform the average move about pivot. And right about there at 163 about. Let's see, nothing too obvious in terms of direction yet though. Wave 10. The standard deviation's been elevated for a little bit. It's starting to go down, and it's green, so that's good. too surprised to see the overall market go lower with accused, SPY, and then software being up a little bit, just because software's been hammered by a lot recently. Almost the average move. Got open state there at 151.80. Let's add some more days. Should wave 50. Yeah, so it's still an expansion phase higher. I don't know too much about this one, about their company. I know it's software, it's cybersecurity related. But in terms of Fractal, it's in a expansion phase higher. So if you want to go along this one, it's looking okay. If this can leave the gold area pretty elevated in green deviation, that'd be good for long. The wave 100, we have 164.94 open state. So as long as this doesn't turn red again and have M assigned, then that looks promising for this to close. I'll tell you that. It needs to act fast too, because it's above this average percentile pivot. Yeah. They'll figure out real soon, doesn't want to close L1. Real soon there, it'll decide which direction it takes. This is green going lower towards golden area. Okay, yeah, nothing too obvious about this one, I'd say, but if you're in long now, it's not looking too bad. It's not looking too obvious, though, or clear that you should stay long. But yeah, nothing too obvious at the end of the day with this one, I would say. But as in the short term, it's looking not too bad. That's what I'd say for that one. All right. Anything else you guys want to go over? You type in the chat. If not, I can go over some other stuff. What else am I looking at? Let me pull my list. I can look at QQ again. How about Fortinet, FTMT? Or okay, there's another one there too. All right. I know Fortinet. Another cyber name. I like Cloudflare, NET, out of the cyberspace the most in terms of the company. You can see what that looks like in the Fractal too. I'd say, if you're holding the cybersecurity stocks or even the ETF, there's a cyber ETF. There's a UG Bugs, a cyber ETF that I followed for a little bit. That's something you could probably hold for years and years on. As the world becomes more and more digital, obviously more hacking and all this stuff. So that's where these companies come in, and provide that applications to ensure privacy and safety online. Same with CrowdStrike. It's obviously bullish. It's been bullish. And it's going to be bullish until this turns red in standard deviation. Got a bunch of open states there. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. It'll make its mind up here. Doesn't want to close these, or we'll just go weak, make it L1. 28 open state, average moves way up here at 97. This K was just a sign, on the 9th, that green leaving the golden area. So far it's looking to be, long. Say the Wave 100. I haven't looked at this one in a long time. I've only took one trade on this one. It was back in, I think, like 2022. That's some options, but yeah, this thing must have done a split too. This thing's only 80 some dollars, or yeah, 85. This K was just a sign on the 9th. As long as this green leaves the golden area, green, it's looking safe for longs. It's looking good. Here in the Wave 150, price is going for not only the purple vector, but also H1, high above pivot. With that red finally giving up, and negation back in golden area. If we can get some green and a K assigned, you can see some sharp upside. Again, same with the Wave 200. It's kind of like a rebound name. But yeah, so far it's looking good. Looking good if you're long. Let's see. On that picture, those levels are derived from the not data warehouse, the spread monster, I believe, that Russell did. I can kind of show that. Let's go. Have to go. What is this? QQ. Let me go over that towards the end, maybe. Coinbase. All right. I can even look at Bitcoin too. It's looking like it's consolidating performance. With the current administration, having all their wealth in crypto, and it's not doing well at all. Or maybe they're shorting it. I don't know. So, but Coinbase Wave 3 average moves way above there. It closed all those open states. But so far, yeah, this is a bullish expansion phase higher. Looking good so far. On Wave 3 in the short term. Wave 7. Yeah. Price, gained above purple vector on Friday. Denied any further downside so far. Now let's go for the H1 above pivot with the green stimulation showing. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I kind of like this. Yeah, price went down to 2% band. Rejected any further downside. Yeah, as long as there's not any immediate downside in this one. This thing looks like it's just going to start to the upside. All 20, only 9% odds of occurring at all. With one occurrence compared to H1 with two occurrences there. I think the options on this one are a little expensive, but yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, the only open stay in the wave $7 at 51.83. Price denied that. Look at that compression there. So this is kind of similar here. Big compression cycle. Right now we're at here. Right here. And most probable what's going to happen is we'll see this big gap right here with the H1. Stimulation. It was red, went down, now it's green, going higher. So if we can get a K especially, that'd be really good. Looking pretty good for a swing. I would say this goes higher into the following days, from what I'm seeing. L18, 11%, 7% odds of L23. Yeah, it's kind of a cliff there. Goes from 2 occurrences to 1. Yeah. So we're seeing signs that this is bottoming here, which is good. Price rejected any further downsides, came back above the purple vector on wave 7 and wave 10, going for H1. I'd say good job on that. Let me look at Bitcoin too, because this obviously, relates to what Bitcoin's doing. Look here, it's kind of line shows here. with the higher time frames real quick. It's down at 10% band. Yeah. So like I said, if there's no immediate downside, yeah, you can get long in the calls in this one. I'll put a splice on this one in a minute too. See what we got in the coming days. This is open stay there, 89.68. 2%. You know, we're at what, L62. 15% odds. I at least think we have a temporary, reversion higher. How far out? I'm thinking, maybe even this Friday, from what I see on wave 7, as long as there's no immediate downside tomorrow. But like I said, look at the splice real quick. I'm gonna look at this real quick. I'm just curious. Okay, it's not loaded up. All right. So far, I think there's at least a temporary bottom, bound for this one, and we can definitely try playing that. Huh. I think let's load 1,000 days actually. Yeah, it looks even better. 1,000 days loaded. L20, 5%. It goes from 5 to 3 to 2%. Only one occurrence on all those, as opposed to 18 occurrences on the H1. Yeah, this is looking good. This might be our swing, actually. Let's go to splice. Let me just add one, actually. Okay. I'll just do Monday, Tuesday again. Okay. Yeah, look at this. So the splice again shows like the immediate, forecast of price, the immediate direction. Let's add more days, actually. Oh, okay. So there is one thing to be worried about, is this 153.56. Close it real quick and then revise higher, or it'll just reject that. It could be a near miss or whatever. It doesn't absolutely have to close that. But I think that's the only thing to be cautious about, this 153.5. Perhaps that would even be a very good entry if it gets there. Okay. So yeah, that's what happens here this is what's going to happen going to tomorrow and the following days. Either we close this or we go higher to the 80% band, which is 170. Let me look at, what's the exact price of this one? The exact price is 164.32. Oh, this thing was up 16% Friday. Oh, wow. Huh. With 3 times the average volume on Friday and the average daily volume. Yeah, perhaps this upside is just getting started. Huh. So we're at 164. Yeah, even like a 170 call this Friday, wouldn't be too crazy. But going to tomorrow, I'd like to see if that, closes or not. But that's prices at 164, 153. Wow. So yeah, this thing's pretty volatile on a regular basis. But I'd definitely bet my money on, getting this 80% band at 170 in the short term. We'll at least get that. We can always make an L1 after that, or from there, it can go even higher to 50% band, 179. But 170 is really reasonable in terms of a strike. Maybe this Friday. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing for that one. Definitely consider that. Take a screenshot of this real quick. Cool. But yeah, good find on that one. Let's look at Bitcoin, like I said. I want to see that real quick. See what's going on with this. Okay, we're discovery. Yeah, I can look at that. Okay, so we're above pivot. Spread's going away. If that can turn green, that's good for long. Above pivot a little bit. Okay, add some more days to this. You're only at H1 there. Okay, we're here now. Okay. So it's looking like, Bitcoin may rebound a little bit here. This KSI and the green standard deviation. Yeah, I can look at hood too. Yeah. I'll look at WBD and then hood. Yeah, look at that. It's towards extreme, the standard deviation. That's why this thing's going sideways now. Yeah, all right. So maybe a short-term rebound in Bitcoin doesn't absolutely follow the overall market. WBD. Okay. I know Netflix has been compressing still. Still no bottom with that one, I think. I think it's down about 76. They were going to acquire this company, right? Warner Bros. Discovery, Wave 7, H2. Yeah, it's in a bullish cycle though. So if you're long or trying to go long, it's not looking too bad. Although a lot of times after we break above pivot, a lot of time bull vector finds support, then higher, and then perform the average move. So it'd be like something like this. Like that. That's possible. Or you can just continue higher with this green standard deviation taking off. We'll have to see if it does that or not. But so far, yeah, longs don't look dangerous. I'll tell you that. Let's go wave 10. Looks like K, which is a sign for both ways, wave 7, wave 10. So it looks like the start of a cycle higher for this one. Yeah, that green just needs to take off in the golden area. Then longs look really good. Yeah, wave here, let's see, wave 20. Yeah, price is fighting for that H1 above pivot. Got above pearl vector, and it's kind of performance this blue line shows. Stop down there, almost towards the bottom of this blue area, and now it's back higher. Option analyzer. It's L9. Yeah, compared to the H1. Let's go for the H1 on wave 20. So looking good so far. Oh man, I have to add more days this one. Yeah, look at that, 32.66. Huh, this could be a good one too. I think it'd take longer than a week to close that, but this might be a good find too. As I do. Compression there. Expansion higher. Yeah, I like that. Looks good. Like I said, price will be above pearl vector. It'll compress a little bit, consolidate, whatever, for a little bit, and then go down and down until it finds support, which is the pearl vector a lot of times upon first test, like we saw there. Now it's going higher. So now expansion higher. So beyond that 30 to 32.66. This is a stay green though. Looking good. I like that one. I'd potentially play that one too. We can look at wave 100 real quick too. But yeah, another good find. Yeah, 34.38. So the mid 30s. We got some open states. this thing can kind of go, trade on its own. Doesn't have to follow QQ or SPY or whatever. But yeah, I would say play to 32 at least. See if we can close the open state, and then from there, potentially, if you're long that one and want to go long. Time frame with options, I really don't know. This is more so something if I was going to play it, I would think in the coming weeks that 32.66 closes. That's what I'll tell you for that one. But yeah, it's looking good as long as the standard deviation doesn't turn and have an M. As long as it doesn't do this, kind of close that and then go lower. A lot of times that can happen. So we'll have to watch that closely. But as of right now, it looks, somewhat safe and good for continued long side. Hood and then CG. They have earnings soon, I believe. Hood. Let's look at this one. All right. This thing was up a little bit Friday, wasn't it? From my personal experience recently, these brokerages are really tightening up on their clients in terms of like options trading and stuff. They're also facing some liquidity shortages. So, if these guys start tightening up on their customers, the customers get mad. They may go to a different broker. Because Robinhood's customers, are, let's say, take a lot of risk. Usually, and they usually accounts lose a lot of money. It kind of makes Robinhood look kind of bad. In a way. So I know Schwab has tightened up a little bit. Vanguard and Active Brokers, all these brokerages are tightening up on their clients for a few reasons. But as far as the fractal, it's looking like price is trying to rebound and make an H1 above pivot and follow this blue line on the wave 3. Resting for a while. Could be finding its bottom there. Let's add some more days. March contracts for WD. Yeah, looks good to me. As long as it's not too far of the money. I think like a 32 or 34 or 35. Yeah, sounds pretty reasonable to me. All right. Okay, so price showing some strength there. Needs to get back above this purple vector for the high above pivot. This needs to turn green though. It's still red going higher. You see that first. This deviation is going down low on the wave 10. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, wave 20 right here at the extreme. Price can go a little bit lower, but it's not gonna go violently lower, with that being the extreme. So I'd be a little cautious of these open states in the short term. So if price can show, at least consolidation or some strength in the immediate time frame, it give me some confidence, to play the high above pivot. That's what I'd say for. It's gonna wait 50 real quick. Yeah. Okay, let's just below this. 2,000 days. Okay, way down there, 24. It's kind of a rational level right now. Yeah, that could be at least a temporary bottom. It's potential. Down to 10% band, reversion higher. Yeah, definitely potential there. Clear signs that, it's going to revise higher. Wait, 100. Yeah. And make sure there's nothing different showing. Okay, this is what I wanted to see. Some more days. Okay. It might be a temporary bottom, like I said, because if you look at the wave 200, we might see something like this. On a smaller wave, like I showed, wave 50 or whatever it was. Yeah, it looks good short term, but it might only be like this. Comes back up to the vector, then lower. A lot of times that happens, or price will just go lower to L1. That's what I'm seeing for that one. This M just got signed, I think, down here, where this red standard deviation just started. Yeah, start of the month. CGSN, no problem. Yeah, long story short, hood. Yeah, short term, it's looking like it's trying to make a bottom temporarily, though I would be cautious for the longer term of more downside regarding what I see here. Okay, Constellation Energy. It's a great company involved in, it's a utility company also involved in nuclear space. Kind of like Vistra, VST. This is going to be $100 billion company or more. A lot of customers in the Washington, D.C. area, Maryland, I believe. I've done some research on this one before. As far as a fractal, we're in a expansion phase higher with the H3 there. We got open state at 352. It's expanding higher. It's bullish as of right now, but will it remain bullish? It's a question. 10. Yeah, we just made this H1 above pivot, high above the pivot. Okay, kind of performed the average move, but this thing's due for further upside. You'll see in the higher waves. I'll show you. K assigned, green standard deviation. Yeah, I'm not too sure what's going to happen in the coming days, but I'm seeing a bullish cycle, week over week. That's what I'm seeing there. Oh, wrong thing. Let's go to. Okay, there's some odds there. There's some occurrences there of H2, 5 occurrences, 72% odds. Like I said earlier, a lot of times it'll do something like this, especially with this stock's a little volatile. It'll come down for support. It made a big jump higher, right? Big gap, made it H1. It didn't come down and hit the purple vector yet. Sometimes it does that, finds support there, a little bit compression, and then first this resistive area, and then something like that. A lot of times that happens. Let's keep clicking through these. Yeah, wave 20 shows it's rebounding. So this shows that it's showing some strength. It's convincing that so far made a temporary bottom, right? It just needs to stay green, potentially get a K assigned, and go for that high above pivot. So it's looking good so far if you want to be long. A little bit further below Pearl Vector. But yeah, this thing's been compressing for a little bit. The only thing to downside, it will ultimately flow lower to that open state. Wrong, or at least go sideways or consolidate. Yeah, get our H1 there. So that's what I'm seeing with that one. 198, same thing I just said there. Let's look at these two real quick, and then I'll look at SN. A little more days here. Oh, this might not load up since this thing might IPO kind of recently. Maybe there's not enough data to look at. But all right, let's look at SN. Okay, what is this stock again? Let me look at my other computer. Shark Ninja. Okay, consumer cyclical. Furnishing fixtures and appliances. Okay. Well, I'm not sure what they sell exactly. I mean, if it's luxury stuff, that's good. We're in a K-shaped economy. If you don't know already, we're top 10 or 20% income earners are doing good, and as time goes on, they're doing better and better as their assets inflate higher. As their assets prices go higher, they feel wealthier. Then if they feel wealthier, they spend more money, and then they would spend more money on stuff like this. Consumer cyclical name, Shark Ninja. This sells appliances and stuff for homes. It seems like reasonable, not high end. Okay, so maybe the typical consumer. Okay, sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've heard this before then. Okay. I've not looked at stock yet before. Interesting. So this definitely, relies off the consumer. Obviously, there's more homes, being built and sold, and more people moving in. Creates more demand for these type of products, maybe with kind of their appliances. But vacuums, yeah, blenders. Okay, gotcha. Came up on a scanner. Okay, cool. Wave 3, yeah, we're in a bullish cycle, obviously. Yeah, open state way above there at 154. This thing, let's see. This thing IPO'd not too long ago, looks like. All right. Wave 7, same thing. Bullish cycle, that K taking off. Same thing, the wave 10. It's at the resistive area right now. So it has to decide which direction is going to go. Sometimes when it gets to this resistive area, it goes sideways sometimes, or we see some compression lower. We can even see it down to L1 or higher to these open states. So something like that will occur really soon here. Or it can be an outlier and look like this, just blow right past the resistance if there's something good going on with the company. Yeah, so still showing bullish cycle. Doesn't look dangerous to be long if you're in long or want to be long. Looks like it's outperformed the market as of recent. Okay, right there at 149.59, open state. Yeah, so right about here, I see some compression, an expansion. If I had to bet on this, that's what I'm thinking there. After this compression cycle, we see some sharp expansion higher, ultimately to that open state of 149.59. So that was good. Looks good for longs. I'm not sure what the options look like. I'm not sure if it's a liquid options chain yet, but as far as if I was gonna enter shares, yeah, 149 is repeating open state. I'd like to see 149 for this one. Yeah, looking good so far. It is at a resistive area though, 150. Gotta be open state up there maybe, or maybe not. It's a newer company. Oh, actually no, yeah, there is 265.75. Look at this open space. So as long as we can break above this area here, the average percentile pivot, you can see a very explosive rally. Much higher. To the open state maybe. I'm not sure. That's pretty high, almost double. But in that direction at least, if it continues to be strong. End phase, yeah, no problem. Real quick. Yeah, it looked like something like this. As long as we gain some strength right here, it looks something like this here. Long expansion phase higher and stay long. So, but yeah, as of right now, it's looking good. It doesn't look dangerous to be long. All right. End phase. This company went through a lot of ups and downs. The stock, it's been hammered the past few years. But let's look at it now. The problem with this is a solar name. If I was gonna go with solar, I like First Solar better, FSLR. I like that company better. But the problem with the whole solar sector is, the Trump administration doesn't show any love towards it. They show more love towards coal. METC is a coal stock. Some of us went long on. I went long on, a few months ago. they're kind of going through. So that's one I would prefer over solar. Yeah, this is probably something even short. Let me look at the other screen of this. I believe this is highly, 33 price earnings. Yeah, a little elevated. Have a good amount of debt. But yeah, this thing was $340 back in 2023. It looks like it's at mid 40s now. But long as the no-go so far, I'll tell you that, with this red standard deviation showing at the M on wave 7. You know, just look at this area here. Let's call it like this box, kind of. Throughout all this time, price really didn't get anywhere. You know, it didn't expand higher, no outlier really. So now I'm thinking we see some down here, at least the average move. That's what I'm seeing for that one. Kind of see something like this. Yeah. Come on, trust line. Yeah. Kind of broke out this channel lower, and then it's gonna continue lower. I do not like being long that one. Even though I could pull up the higher time frame, you know, in the linear chart, the past few years, it's down so much, but you know, it's not really a discount. You know, it's the price is down for a reason. You know, it's because their business is not doing too well. If this loads up, I'll get a couple more waves. I think long term, yeah, CEG is definitely a better company, different position. Excuse me, better position to be in my opinion. I've researched CEG quite a bit not so long ago. A lot more cash, a lot more, you know, a lot of customers. Oh, we do this. You know, more demand for the nuclear. A lot more hype too for nuclear than there is solar. But if I had to pick a solar name, it would be First Solar, FSLR. You know, that stock's been downgraded a bit. Yeah, this looks like this downside is getting started. That standard deviation is going sideways. Most likely turn red soon. There is an open state there, 57.59. You know, maybe compresses down that 40.5, and then something expands higher to that 57.59. But as of right now, short term, long as a no-go, with that wave 3 and 7 as shown. You know, maybe down the road, okay, we can see that 57, but in the short term, it's going to compress more, at least down to that 40.5, I'm thinking, from what I've seen. Yeah, down to 38.90, purple vector for support. So there's definitely, if I had to bet on it, short-term compression, short-term downside for this one. Upside in the longer term, I'm not too sure. You have to read more about it. You know, made it H1 though, wave 100, not so long ago. 50, some more days. Huh. K was just a sign though. Okay. Oh man, this is, yeah. So that's where it gets a little tricky, because like I said earlier, I look at one wave like this, wave 200, ignore all the smaller waves. You know, maybe something, you know, really good happens with the solar space. You know, I can be wrong. You know, something good happens to this company or this sector. But what I do know for sure is there's short-term compression. It's going down to find support at least at 40 or to 38.90, and then higher. You know, maybe there's something, you know, in the background going really well with this company. I just don't know. I had to read more about it. But what I do know, and what I would bet on, is short term. Let's say, you know, this week and the following week, there's a little more compression, a little more downside, and then potentially maybe there's more upside with this one. This is a rebound name. This thing's been compressing for a long time. A little over a year. So, I think there's a decision to make on the wave 200. Compress a little bit more to support the purple vector, then higher, or I'll break through it and go down here to this open state. And I'm sure there's more open states lower. But I know for a fact CG is just a safer, better company. But you could definitely be right along with this one. I don't know too much. There's nothing too clear or obvious besides the fact that there's going to be, in the short term, more compression, more downside to at least about $40 or about 38, 39. That's what I'd say for that one. Let's see, what time is it? All right. Well, there's nothing else right now. I'll probably wrap this up. But in terms of a swing play, Coinbase looks promising. We can try this Friday 170 as potential. But I don't like racing into things. Let's see. Since today wasn't open, it's a little different. Usually we host these on Mondays. We see the first day of trading happen, and then then judge on based on what we saw on the Monday trading session. Since today was open, I think could pull back a little bit first tomorrow, then higher, or it could just gap up higher and we won't be able to buy the option, with this thing being up in pre-market. So, but ultimately, yeah, let's watch it tomorrow, and then go from there. If it remains strong, yeah, 170 for this Friday, it definitely has potential, to this 80% band, 172 area. Yeah, once 1,000 days, yeah, it looks really good. That's kind of rational down to that 51. Something really, really bad would have to happen in the short term to even get close to there. We're at L20. Not much odds or occurrences of any more lows beyond L20. And compare that to the 18 occurrences of H1 that happens 100% of the time at some point. Yeah. I'm seeing at least a temporary bottom with this one, at least in the coming days or week over week. So I have to look on the options chain on my other screen. What do you think about SL? Okay. Look at that real quick. Oh, it's a stop loss. I'm like, wait, what stock is that? SL. I was thinking SLV, stop loss.
Quickly, my bad.
Yeah, stop loss. Good question. Yeah, definitely gotta consider that. Wasn't 153 an open state on the splice here?
On the splice, it was, yeah.
Yeah. If it wants to get there, if it breaks below that, gosh. Really, the ultimate entry, that 153.56, to close real quick and then play the reversion higher. Stop loss. Let's figure this out. Let me add some more days here. Because the wave 3, it's not showing. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm still in the splice. Let's go back to normal. If it gets back down to the 2% band, I'm definitely want to be out, which is about 140 or 139.60. 145. Okay. Yeah. What's the bound this wick? 145. See how this bound this is up with this candle? Let's call it like 145 area. Because this, this to me looks like this is the base right here. If it breaks below this base, next is a 2% band. It's already tested the 2% band once. If it does again, it's most likely going lower. So I'd say set your stop loss accordingly to like the 145 area. Yeah, about 145 for this one. That's what I would do. So let's say this thing goes sideways tomorrow. Okay, that's our entry. Our target is 8% band. Our stop is this right here. That's what I'm thinking for that, for Coinbase. Again, let me check my other screen on 170 expensive it is for this Friday. Options. Let's look at it. Yeah, this Friday is it triple witching, right? February 20th. Big date. Okay. So 170 cents. It's a premium. A lot of open interest there. Or no, volume. 14,000. Open interest 2,000. 62.52, which is in the money, is 7.32 or 30. So yeah, it's a pretty good gain. At least 8%. 80% or more gain by this Friday. It gets to 170. Yeah. Action there. So I'm liking this one. Like I said, 145 area. Personally, be my stop loss. Well, actually, no. This Friday's contract. I was thinking the current price is a little lower. Current price is 164. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to
Yeah, I was
judge
just
this
about to
one.
ask. That didn't sound right.
Yeah. If I was going long stock, that'd be my stop loss. Sorry. For options, and it's really tricky because this thing's so volatile. This thing was up 16%, Friday. Gosh, you would think after 16% day, it must have pulled back a little bit, 2-3%. It's tricky, Definitely if it gets under 154, that pearl vector, I don't want it to be long. I'll tell you that. Again, we'll have to see what it does right away, tomorrow. If it goes down immediately to that 153.56 open state was on the splice, it'd be an amazing entry too. And then stop loss. Yeah. It's hard to say this one. Stocks, it's a very close date. But, it also depends on, how much, it depends on how much you're willing to lose, Let's say cap at 45% for me. If it goes to 45%, it can go much lower. I think there's some statistic if if you enter in and you're down 60% right away, the probability of it going to zero is pretty high. I'll have to pull it up again, but I don't want to take a 60% loss. Let's call it, I don't know, me personally, I'd do like 45%, I would say. Again, it's just so tricky to look on the fractal what we can do or stop loss if we're trading options. This thing's just so shares. So let's say it depend on you. But if I was long stock, like I said, if we enter tomorrow and this thing goes back down to 145 and looks, weak again, I did not want to be long the stock. We can see an outlier for the lower. But yeah, that take profit though is, clear 80% band, 172, the 170 strike. It's a very reasonable strike. That's something for that one. So, all right, it's about 9 o'clock now, Eastern time. I'm probably gonna wrap this up. But like I said, Coinbase looks, looks pretty convincing. We'll have the eye on it more tomorrow. See what it does. See how it opens up, and go from there. Never want to rush into anything. And we'll go from there. But yeah, thanks guys for joining tonight. Do this every Monday, like I said, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And thank you for joining in. Take care, guys.